I just heard a loud sound come from your dad's room, and I walked in. He was on the floor, not responding, okay? Hey, welcome back. I'm Brenda with Caregivers Collective. Picture this. I sound like Sophia Petrillo. It's Monday, December 16th, 2024. And my dad is sitting on the edge of his bed, and there's about 5 or 6 big, burly paramedics standing in his bedroom. And I'm sweaty. I always figured we would have to call 911 at some point for my dad. In today's episode, I want to tell you that story. So here's what happened. My husband was home from work that day. I took advantage of the time. I told him, hey, I'm going to the gym. Told my dad, hey, I'm going to the gym. But what I didn't tell anyone was that I was going to meet up with someone from Facebook Marketplace to purchase this little trinket for the house, which if you are a fellow caregiver, you understand every now and then you want a little retail therapy. Anyway, I have to drive probably about 20 minutes to get there. When I left, my dad was at his desk doing some coloring. He had already had breakfast, his meds. He seemed totally fine. Get to this person's house, and literally, as I'm handing over the cash, my husband calls. I figured, okay, maybe he had a question about dinner or something. I let it go to voicemail, and then he calls back right away. And you know that feeling, right? When someone calls you back to back, it's urgent. It's an emergency. So I tell the person, okay, here's the money. I gotta go. I answer the phone, and my husband is telling me, I just heard a loud sound come from your dad's room, and I walked in. He was on the floor, not responding. Okay. I start to panic. I'm like, is he breathing? Yes, he's breathing. Managed to get him onto the bed. He scraped up his arm pretty bad. Okay, say no, I'm there. I'm on my way. At that point, I had to tell him, okay, well, I'm not just down the street from our local gym. It's going to take me a little bit longer to get there. I get home, and my dad actually surprisingly seemed fine. My husband was with him. He was sitting at the edge of his bed, had already forgotten what had happened. I'm asking him, how do you feel? Oh, I feel fine. And I'm looking at him, and I'm trying to assess, do we need to go to urgent care? Do we need to go to the ER? Trying to watch him closely to look for any clues to tell me what the hell is going on. Why did you slump over and fall from the chair you were sitting in? At that point, I noticed his arm, as my husband had said, his arm had gotten pretty scraped up. As he slumped over in his chair, his arm got scraped up pretty bad. I'll go get a first aid kit. Come back. I start cleaning his wound, and I'm talking to him about, hey, we should go to the ER. As I continue cleaning his wound, this is literally what happened next. He starts going like this. Eyes sort of rolling back, falling like onto the bed like this, going back. And I panic. I mean, I try to keep my composure. It's not like I'm yelling or, oh my God, I'm not doing that. But I gotta freak out. And so I sit him up. He kind of comes to, and then within not even 30 seconds, it happens again. He starts going back. At that point, I'm like, I called to my husband, call 911. My husband was very matter of fact. Okay, on it. Less than 5 minutes later, the paramedics are arriving. By the time they got there, he had come back again. I really didn't know what the hell was going on. Stroke, seizure. Paramedics get there. They're asking him questions. They have him laying on the bed. They're taking blood pressure, giving him some fluids, and asking him, the baseline questions. What's your name? I tell them he has dementia. So they're able to establish his baseline. So they're asking him all the baseline questions. They're asking me about his medication. And I thought I was ready. I got one of those gallon-size Ziploc bags, typed out and printed out the name of the medication and how often he takes it on the outside of the Ziploc bag. So I give that to the paramedic who's asking me about his meds. And then he says, I need to know the dose. And then I stop in my tracks and I realize, shit. Okay, I need to just look at the bottles, right? The bottles have the milligrams of each medication. But when you're in that moment, worried about your dad, what's going on, are they gonna take him to the hospital? Feel that paramedic waiting for me to get all this information to him. And I know some people probably are thinking, hey, so whatever, it took you 30 seconds maybe to look through the bottles, but still you want to be able to just give that information right away, especially in an emergency scenario. And when there's an emergency happening, 30 seconds feels like an eternity. It was kind of embarrassing, I have to be honest. And I wonder if you feel the same way, where you pour so much of yourself into caring for your person, got the medications down, what they're allergic to down. When was the last time they drank something? When was the last time they ate something? When was the last time they went to the bathroom? And so I thought I was ready, but then the one thing that I wasn't ready for was the actual dose. I remember thinking to myself, okay, never again. I'm going to make sure I have all of it written down, the dose, the dosage, all of it. Just a quick little tangent to explain what the difference is between dose and dosage. The dose is the specific amount you take at one time, right? So 1 10 milligram tablet. The dosage is actually the whole picture, the medication, the amount, which is AKA the dose, how often and when. Did you remember that I said December 16th? So all of this happened 2 days before me, my husband, and my daughter were flying out to visit my in-laws for Christmas. I'd be lying if I didn't say that there was a moment where I thought, shit, we're gonna have to cancel the trip. So it turns out Dad was fine. I mean, yes, he fainted in his chair to the point where he fell out of his desk chair. By the time they got him into the ambulance, his blood pressure leveled out. They elevated his legs. They took him to the ER. There wasn't anything, thankfully, major that happened. There was no stroke, no heart attack, no seizure. All his tests came back fine. It ended up basically being dehydration and low blood pressure. And he has a tendency toward low blood pressure. They still admitted him for one night for observation, and then he was back home the next day. When it was clear he was gonna be okay, I breathed a big sigh of relief, because if you're a family caregiver, you know how important it is to have some time away. So here's today's tip, and it's one of the most practical tips you're going to hear on my channel. Write down every single medication that your loved one takes, and not just the name, but also the generic name, the dose, and the schedule. Those little details can easily slip through the cracks when you're already dealing with so much. The next thing I want you to do is to print it out. A respite caregiver that comes over to your house, they can reference that sheet of paper. Remember that your loved one, regardless of what condition or disease they're currently living with, in the event of an emergency, they cannot advocate for themselves. It's really important for you to know this critical information should anything ever happen, and that information has to be shared with first responders. This is why I created the important medical information form. It's literally one sheet that you can post on your fridge, and it has a place for your loved one's name, emergency contact, medical information, allergies, insurance information, doctor information, all the essential information in one place gives you peace of mind, because during an emergency, the last thing you want to be doing, like what I was doing for those 30 seconds, is panicking. So have you ever found yourself in a situation similar to what I described today? You weren't quite ready for a medical emergency? Tell me the story in the comments. I want to know. If this episode was helpful, hit subscribe. I have new episodes coming out every Tuesday. And with that, I'll see you next week.